This video accompanies the Metamorphosis exhibition here at Alexandra Palace Knitting and Stitching Show from the 6th to the 9th of October. Now let me introduce you to Oberon. So this is what we've been crocheting over the last few months at TOFT HQ. An absolutely incredible 4-metre wide butterfly. And over the course of the next few days, you'll all be joining us, learning how to crochet a spot, and then those wings will become absolutely glorious by the end of the show. Added to that, we've also got this incredible butterfly too. So this one is actually 5 meters in wingspan and is finished off with all those gorgeous formations of spots. And what you can do here at the show is you can pose so that you can become a butterfly. You can see just, I can't show you quite how big it is. It's 5 meters in width, that one. And you can pose just on the spot so that you can become a butterfly. So in the following video, I'll teach you all the techniques that accompany the 3 new butterflies for this exhibition.
So let's take a close look at the 3 new butterfly designs for the Metamorphosis exhibition. So first we've got Ophelia, who is loosely based on a tailed jay. So that's definitely represented in her shaping, especially on these bottom lower wings. Then we've got Oberon, who is based loosely on a hair streak. So you've got a lovely neutral colouring at the back and all the detail on the front of that one and a bit of a loop stitch. And then here we've got Rosalind, who is based on a veined white. So you're doing lots of different techniques across all 3. Now, before I begin with the techniques, let's just explain what you're going to get included. So in each kit, you can only get them included in one of our complete kits. So that means that the colours are fixed within your box. You will get your stuffing, you'll get your hooks, you'll get your safety eyes, and then you'll also get the pattern for the butterfly that you've chosen and a cocoon. So all 3 come with a cocoon. Now, included in that, you will also get one of these very special Metamorphosis patches. And I was very careful to try and combine elements of all 3 into the patch. So rather than it be one particular butterfly, this is a patch that you get included in all of the kits. And it's a combination of all the different butterflies. And this exhibition is all about mental health and change. Mental health is something that affects us all. And with this Metamorphosis exhibition, what we're aiming to do is to fundraise for 2 fantastic charities. So for Mind and for Young Minds, £3 from each kit of one of these butterflies sold will be going towards one of those charities. Now, before I start with the individual techniques, I just want to show you how you put your butterfly inside a cocoon, because I think this might be one of the questions. So all you need to do to fit your butterfly inside the cocoon is fold the wings around like that, and then you can pop your butterfly inside. And my children, certainly my 6-year-old Alex, absolutely loves the idea of fitting her butterfly inside the cocoon like that. So they fit really neatly inside, like a little sleeping bag, and they can always come out of that cocoon as they transform into a butterfly. Right, so bear with me a second while I get everything that I need, because what I haven't even mentioned yet is the fact that what we're going to be using is a brand new TOFT colour. So this is TOFT Sage. It is a really subtle bluish green. So it's not a bold colour. It fits into our new pastel range. It's called Sage, and at the moment it's only available in these butterfly kits. It will eventually join the rest of our range, but for now and for Metamorphosis, it's just included in these kits. And each one of the 3 butterflies uses the Sage. So Ophelia uses it for her cocoon and her spots. You can see it here on the wings of Oberon, and we're using it to put the veins onto Rosalind. So the 3 different wings of the butterflies are very different. They all use different techniques. When it comes to Oberon's wings, I would refer to the Annabelle video. So there's an Annabelle butterfly who is the original butterfly that I did. And those wings take the same structure as hers. So you'll be working backwards and forwards in rows, and then you'll be crocheting all the way around the edge. So use that video for that one. But I'm just going to show you how I've done these 2 very differently. So with these 2 designs, what you've actually done is you've crocheted them in the round, as we're more used to, rather than backwards and forwards. But what we're going to do to finish them off neatly is we're actually then going to crochet all the way around the edge to keep them flat and in shape. So what we've got now is we've got, as we normally would, a 3D shape that we'd normally put stuffing in. But to keep them nice and flat, fold them flat like that, and we're going to double crochet right the way around the edge. So you just put your hook in and you double crochet to give that a lovely, nice, neat edge of stitches. And that would be exactly the same for the tailed J. The only thing to show you differently about the J on Ophelia's is with these ones, what you're going to do is you're going to double crochet along the longer edges and then just slip stitch around the shorter ends so that we retain that shape. You don't want to lose that lovely shape along the bottom. So you're going to double crochet along the longer sides. And then start to slip stitch once you turn that corner around that tip. So when it comes to slip stitching around that tip, all you need to do is put your hook in through the stitches, yarn over and through in a slip stitch traverse. Now this is how we're actually going to also be adding the veins onto Rosalind and also the edging onto Oberon. So let me just show you those two techniques quickly as well so you've seen them. Now in your kit, you have got two colours of the main wing colour and then one in contrasting in all of them. Obviously you can decide to play with the colours should you wish, but the one that's your contrasting will be the one that your cocoon is made from. For example, Oberon, I've got my cocoa in contrasting as the slip stitch traverse. So the cocoon for that one will be in the cocoa. The other two I've got sage as their cocoon colours, but you could decide to mix and match those colours within your kits as well. Right, so to do the slip stitch traverse around the edge of this style of wing, you'll do exactly what we were just doing in terms of doing the slip stitches, but using that contrast colour of cocoa and going between the sage and the stone like that. And it'll just add a lovely neat edging all the way around those wings. So the final technique to show you in terms of slip stitch traversing is adding these veins onto your completed butterfly wings. And to do these, what we're going to do is traverse onto the surface and then just branch off quite organically. My advice would be to do one first completely and then mimic it with a second one. So all you need to do is put your hook through the surface of the fabric like that and slip stitch, moving one round up at a time like that. Then if you're going to do one of the little branches away, just change direction, come across and travel across the surface of the fabric. Then once you get to kind of the end of a split, what you can do is break your yarn, pull that through, and then you rejoin there and come up the straight again. So just take your time and add that veining onto the edge of your wings. Now, one thing to mention when it comes to stuffing and sewing up, I would do all of the detail on your wings first and then put it all together at the end. So you do assemble all your flat pieces first and then put it all together. And one really important thing to mention when you are doing your butterfly heads is if you're using the safety eyes included in the kit, is make sure that you get those safety eyes in before you then close that up. So if you are going to use the safety eyes when you're doing it with your stuffing, I always put a little bit of stuffing in first so that I can see the shape and then I add the eyes to that. So put your little bit of stuffing in like that. And before you gather the stitches at the end, put your two safety eyes into place and just push those in between the rounds like that. Line it across to make sure you've got it in line with the other one. Push it in through the hole. There we go. And then once you're happy with the position of your two eyes, so just take a good look at it like that. Once you're happy with the position of the two eyes, then what you can do is just pull that stuffing down a little bit to expose the back. There we go. And push the back of your safety eye on so that's firmly in position and they can't ever come off. Now obviously although they're safety eyes, I still wouldn't recommend them for under 3s, and so if you are making this butterfly for an under 3, then you can always use just a black contrast thread to sew two eyes in place like I would normally in the rest of my designs. But the safety eyes in this instance, when we're making bugs, just gives them a little bit of sheen, makes them look a little bit different, a little bit more interest. Right, now let's assemble the rest of our body parts. So take your head, thorax and abdomen, and what you need to do is gather the stitches on the bottom of the abdomen. Like that.
And we want to be sewing through all the pieces to try and keep the body nice and compact and to obviously make them secure to each other. So sew your thread right through the middle and out the top. Obviously you don't want it to be scrunched up like that, so just pull it back a little bit. You want it to be tight, that it's firmly holding its shape, but you don't want to be pulling it so that the end inverts. Right, then that side. So gather the thorax too. And sew that through. And then the head. And the head should fit onto the top of the thorax like that, so that it's, you see how it's almost a triangle in its shape? It should fit neatly onto the top of the thorax. So you'll be gathering the stitches at the bottom of the head. And then sewing through like that. And I'm actually going to sew through all of them first, and then I'm going to sew back and put a few more stitches together. There we go, like that, because that allows me to pull them as tight as I want them to be. There we go, you see, nice and tight as a 3-section body parts. And then I'm going to sew a few stitches in between all the parts so that I know it's nice and firmly together. Right, next, let's talk about adding this line down the middle of Ophelia's body, because that is an unusual technique to her. So this is Ophelia, which is this one here. Now, when adding the line onto the body, what you're going to be doing is slip stitching into the bottom. Like that. And then you're going to be chaining. Again, obviously use all the numbers as stated in your pattern. I don't think my hands have got very, very used to using chunky as we've made the giant butterflies. That's the first time it's come back to a double knit. So my hands are like, what is this? This yarn feels quite small. So what you're going to do there is you're going to come up and slip stitch into the join between the abdomen and the thorax like that. And then you're actually going to go on and do the next bit. So you go all the way up to the top of the head. So you're going to chain. Again, I'm just doing this very roughly. Follow the numbers as stated in your pattern. So you chain and you attach in the same way. You chain and you attach again, and then you're going to actually use the different length stitches as you come back down. So you're going to be using double crochets, half trebles and trebles as you come back down in order to put that line into place. So I've decided on this one not to do my third segment of stitches. I actually turned at the top between the head and the thorax and came back down just using the 2 sections. It's your choice really. What I'd really like you to see is enjoying making a change to these butterflies too, enjoying combining the 3 together. I've tried to build in lots of different elements to the 3 different patterns so that you've got different techniques that you can use to embellish yours in whichever way you want. So let's talk about sewing on our wings. Now it really, again, I've given you a couple of options. So with Oberon, because of that loop stitch, it might actually be easier to sew them directly into position. So use that thorax once you've got it sewn up and just sew your wings onto the back. Now I've left a gap wherever possible in between the 2 wings so that they're spread out. But what I actually find easiest to do is to do it a little bracket almost in the colour of the thorax. So say I'm doing the wings here in the silver. What I'll do is, obviously once you've got your wings finished off nicely, is I'll actually slip stitch into the wing. And then I'll do a couple of double trebles. Again, use your pattern for the exact numbers. Across the bit at the back. And then what you can do is use that to sew it into place, because it means that you can position that on that side and the same on the other side, and then you can just sew those stitches into place, and that will give you the right level of gapping between the two wings at the back. So I'm then, with my bottom wing for my J, I'm going to sew that to my top one with a few stitches, which will hold their position apart like that. So your top wing goes upwards and curves downwards, and your bottom wing should come out like that. So do a few stitches, but you've got those nice edging stitches that you put on between the two, so it's nice and easy to sew around them. There we go. And then just using the stitches that you've created, that almost little bracket on the back of the wing, line at the back of the thorax. And you can sew those into position by then adding the stitches through the silver double trebles to hold them in place. So that's me sewing one set first and then putting the other set on. You could alternatively sew the two sets together and then sew the two sets to the thorax, whichever you find easiest in terms of sewing up. Now I left myself a little short end on there too, which wasn't very helpful. Leave yourself a nice long end whenever you do any piece so that it makes it much easier for you to sew it together at the end. There we go. So to add the bobbles onto the wings, the nice thing is you don't do these as you go along. You can add them wherever you want to once you've finished sewing up, whether you do it before you sew the wings on or afterwards. And what you're going to do is, I'm using sage here. You put your hook in through where you want the position of a bobble like that. So you've got your yarn in place. Then you yarn over and come in through and around the stitch, through to the point where you've got 3 loops, and take 2 of them off so that then you've got 2 loops on your hook. Then go again, so yarn over, in around the same stitch. That's 2. So then you'll have 3 loops on your hook, and then again, so go back in through that same stitch, and this time you're going to come through all of them in one motion. So you'll actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you come through all of those in one motion before breaking the yarn and sewing the ends in. And there's no need, what you do with your 2 ends, I find it easiest to just put the 2 together through my needle and then sew them in one go, in and through like that. So pull them nice and tight, put the 2 ends in together, and then sew in and through in one go. And that means you can add the bobbles exactly where you want them to be so that your butterfly is unique to you. So place those wherever you feel like. I've gone right round the edge for simplicity, but you can always cluster them at the tips. Or, I mean, if you wanted to make some bigger and some smaller, that's quite an easy thing to do. You just need to do more wraps. So say that I was going to do one slightly bigger to go here. What I do to create a bigger bobble would be to go through not just once, twice, and 3 times, but you'd actually go through a 4th time and even a 5th time if you wanted to, and that's going to make that bobble much bigger. So that's me going through 5 times before I then come through all of them in one motion. So a much bigger bobble because it's got 2 extra wraps. And then you can just sew the ends in exactly the same way. And that way your butterflies can be absolutely unique to you. And I can't wait to see the pictures as you take some time to put your butterflies together. Right, thank you very much. I'm off now to go and set up the giant butterflies. I know that order probably sounds strange to the running of the video, but this is me about to set off to Ali Pali to go and put up these giant butterflies that you've just seen. Please share it on social media so that you can join in with Metamorphosis from home as well, even if you can't make it to the show. Thank you. So it's 5 o'clock on Sunday here at the Knitting and Stitching Show, and I'm very pleased to say that Oberon is complete. Never have I felt so proud of something that we have all made together. Not just the team at TOFT for actually crocheting the butterfly itself before we started, but for every single one of you that came along and crocheted a spot while we've been here for the 4 days. So just to explain what we did as a design, so it started plain, as you saw, and then on day one, around 60 people came and crocheted cream spots, and we had tons of beginners that day. So lots of you, it was the first thing you'd ever crocheted that had gone on. The next day we moved to silver, and we added just short of 100 spots onto the wings. So the silver, the lighter grey went on. Then shale, the dark grey, went on next with about 120 people on Saturday. And then today I've completed the butterfly. For the first time I actually advised where to put them when people were putting them onto the butterfly, and that's given us that lovely final ombre effect on the butterfly's wings with the mushroom. Honestly, I'm very, very tired, but I've had such a rewarding 4 days. We've taught hundreds of people to crochet. Together we've made this absolutely incredible butterfly, and I can't wait for you to see the finished thing at Harrogate Knitting and Stitching show as well in real life. So thank you so much for everyone who came, and everyone that has also purchased a kit online to fundraise for the 2 incredible charities, Mind UK and Young Minds.